Hello everybody, this is Nantox from NTF Gaming, back with another episode of Factual Opinions, the only place to get the correct opinion on the state of video games. And today, it is time for the big one, Destiny 2. Now before we get to Destiny 2, we have to go back to where we started, which was Destiny 1. Everyone remembers the hype. Everybody was excited. It's Bungie. It's their first new IP. Look what they did with Halo. They're going to do something like that on a bigger scale with loot and friends and a huge MMO-style game. When you looked at the presentation and the style and all the gameplay trailers they had put out, it was so promising. Everybody was so ready for this new idea, this new adventure. And boy, we were let down. When that game launched, man, the story was just so non-existent. And what story was there was not memorable. There wasn't any really big events. There was not really any great loot. It wasn't satisfying to earn the loot. When you did get drops, they weren't good. You couldn't do matchmaking for any mode that actually mattered in that game. You always heard about the nightfalls and the raids. And when you went to go play by yourself, fuck you, you can't. And that's a bummer. Those are all things that were just so down about Destiny 1. But there was potential. The gunplay, the co-op, the look, the feel of the worlds. There was so much there that if you were just like, man, if you just fix the parts that you already know how to do good. I mean, Bungie has made great stories. They've made very satisfying campaigns and great set pieces. If they can put it all together on top of the excellent gunplay, the look of the world, the feel of it, the way you progress, that stuff was fun. It's just there wasn't anything to do, and the story that put it all together was, like I said, non-existent. So, with all that said, we now move on to Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 fixes almost all of the issues, expands on it, but doesn't do it without a little bit of quirks on the way there. So, let's just get this out of the way right now. We're going to talk about the bad parts of Destiny 2, if you want to call them that. They're more nitpicks than bad parts, because for the most part, this game is extremely solid and downright excellent. But right off the bat, shaders. Now, shaders are basically your dyes. It's how you color all your armor. In the first game, you would have shader sets that you would get. So say you get a shader called, I don't know, Purpley Derpley. When you put it on, it automatically textured and layered all of your armor in a cohesive look. It was really smooth. It was really slick implementation of dyes that you've seen lots of MMOs and action RPGs try to do. It was a cool way to quickly make your character look good, and assembling your huge locker room full of shaders was always satisfying and fun. You used to get them from activities, or do them from the raid, or get them from doing strikes. There was a ton of ways to get them, and for the most part, it was a really cool and fun system to always have your Guardian looking the part, looking how you wanted it. As for Destiny 2, they decided to change this up and make it a consumable item on a per item basis. So now, if you have a helmet, you have to spend a single shader to color that one helmet, and so on and so forth for all your armor, which on its own isn't necessarily a problem, except for the fact that they are consumable. So say you find a cool purple color for your helmet, you apply it, then later you find a cool black and gold skin, you put that on, whoops, there goes that purple. You no longer have the purple there, it's gone forever, and there's no direct way to get the colors you specifically want unless you go to the DLC store. Right now, it hasn't been that big of an issue. It's more of an annoyance because there's a huge amount of shaders, and they drop from almost every single thing you do in the game. And as soon as you hit the max level, which is 20, you start getting them a lot more. But it's a change that is a downgrade from how it was originally. And with a couple of changes, including one of the Bungie forums right now that's circulating, this could be a lot better implemented. As for the DLC store, so far they have the typical emotes, ships, shaders, their own cosmetic armor, and none of it is really a big deal because when you hit max level, every time you level up after that, you'll gain a bright engram, which is the exact thing you buy from the store in the first place. And you can break down consumable items to give you the currency that you use to buy things directly from that store. So it's there, and in the modern day of gaming, it's a necessary thing. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation. But so far, I've gotten so many bright engrams and shaders and cosmetics from just playing the game. It hasn't really been a factor. I've only been playing for 3 days. So if you put in some time, that store shouldn't be an issue, but it is there. Hopefully it remains a non-issue, but you got to keep your eye on it as the game evolves. But at launch, that store is not really a problem. If anything, you get a lot of cool stuff from it just from playing the campaign. So now we'll take a look at one of the pillars of Destiny and the Crucible. The Crucible is the PvP game type of Destiny, and I understand the reasoning. I understand esports and the draw of it, and I know that Bungie likes to make a tight Team Slayer 4v4 game type happen, especially in Halo. But Destiny is not Halo. Destiny is Destiny. It's its own game. And I feel like limiting the Crucible to only be 4v4 across every single mode is a real bummer. There's no custom games, which is something they added late in Destiny 1's lifecycle. No dedicated servers for PvP, so you're never quite sure where the opponent's from. You can't even see their ping. So it makes for a really inconsistent PvP experience when, it's 2017. Most PvP shooters have dedicated servers, complete set ways of playing, and they have different game types to satisfy every type of gamer, whether you like a big team battle, big 10-on-10 or 8-on-8, or a small 2v2. Right now, as of launch, Crucible is strictly a 4v4 affair without the other things that make it really stand out, and that's just a knock. I really feel like it's limiting, and despite the advantages of it, it shouldn't be the only mode there. Which then brings me to another issue with Destiny, the fire team size. Now, fire teams are your groups in Destiny. It's how you team up, you play co-op, and unfortunately, it's still 3 players. Now, that's not really such a big deal for the campaign and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of times you have a lot of friends who want to play Destiny together. And you have these gigantic patrol zones, which are areas that let you free roam and adventure around. Big regions like in an MMO. And there's no reason for just hanging out and having fun with your friends and just shooting some monsters. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to have a fire team of, 4 to 6 players go into one of these zones and all just hang out as a group. The only activity that allows more than 4 players is the raid, which isn't out yet. And that's such a extreme, dedicated, hard challenge that gets away from the fun thing of Destiny, which is a very relaxing game, and not being able to play with a bigger group than just 2 people. You always kind of have to juggle, and now that the Crucible lacks a big team battle, a big 6-on-6 or more than that mode, you also are limited there, so it's really tough to play with all your friends. And the way the patrols work, I think it would really benefit them if they made a harder version of a patrol that you can come in there with 6 people, 7 people, and just have a good time. I really feel like the fire team size isn't the end-all be-all, but there could be ways around it to make it more accessible for a larger group. And speaking of more accessible, the UI still has some issues. It still relies on the fake mouse pointer that a lot of other games have aped since then, but it's just not as precise as just selecting things. It could be a little bit faster, and it's more of an issue when it comes to things like the emotes. I mean, you have a store where they're selling you tons of emotes and consumable items, and for some reason, Bungie refuses to let players map any of this to the D-pad. If I can, select 3 or 4 custom emotes and put them on the 4 directions of the D-pad, or maybe take my consumables and have them on one direction on the D-pad. Say I hold left on the D-pad and I get a radial menu of all my emotes. There's a billion different things they could do to make that whole system work better, but instead they kept it exactly the same from Destiny 1, which is a huge oversight. And as last thing I will say that is, like I said, these are all kind of just nitpicks, but I just want to bring them up because I'm about to heap a whole lot of praise. The orbit system. Orbit is where you go when you're in between planets, in between stories, in between strikes. And with the new director system allowing you to travel directly from planet to planet to mission to social hub, orbit doesn't really have a big use anymore, especially because they haven't really changed it much. It's not so much that it's a terrible system, it's just almost exactly the same from the first game. There's not even anything new that they threw in there. Unlike Warframe, you can't even move your ships during the load screen. You can't move your ships at all. In fact, I still don't know why you have a ship. I understand for the story and things like that they have the ship there. It shows up in cutscenes and you can customize it, but really, I was expecting more from the ships and the orbit system. I feel like, considering you are traveling through space, that is still a game area that can be greatly improved. I feel like that part of it should be ramped up. Now, my nitpicks are gone. The bad is done. Destiny 2, despite everything I just said, despite its history, despite the nitpicks, despite the little things that can nag, is a fantastic game. One of the best games of the year. And I mean, right off the bat, it's going to hit you with how it looks. When you boot this game up, everything just looks fantastic. The vistas, the planets, when you go to the farm for the first time, the textures, the weapons, all the races that come back from the first game, but the way they were redesigned, the way they are animated now, Vandals crawling on all fours, the way the hive crumbles apart when you shoot them, the particle effects of your soul hammer, the campaign set pieces, which were non-existent the first time around. You go to some truly unique and crazy visual locations that will just have you... I can't focus on the gameplay. I need to stare at these Bungie skyboxes trademark because goddamn, they're the best in the business at doing those things and really making you feel like you're a part of a huge space opera. Like there is some big shit going on. You are in places that are not Earth, that are foreign to you, and it all looks fucking amazing. It's incredible to watch. As for the other part of it, when you have the video, you need the audio. And I will give a quick shout out right here to Michael Salvatore. He worked alongside Marty O'Donnell, who is Bungie's longtime head composer for all the Halo games in Destiny 1. But with Marty being gone, Michael Salvatore remains, and he just comes through right out the gate with some of the most fantastic music I've heard in gaming in forever. I'm talking themes, orchestrations, battle music, just little chimes, little hymns, the way the music comes in, comes out, the way it transitions from one piece to the next, from relaxation to battle, back to relaxation to huge epic moments. The score is fantastic. The Bungie audio team did such a great job with their mix, the design. I mean, you can't edit the mix, which some people have a problem with, but I love the music in this game. It is so good. It is so memorable. And with the fantastic visuals, just create a great 1-2 punch that you're not going to forget about. And it's not just the music. The sound design is fantastic. The guns, the special powers, the enemies, when you hear them talking to you in their crazy foreign tongues, you don't know what they're saying. The swords, everything has a lot more bass impact. Everything sounds like it hits hard and it hits, devastating. And the entire game is better for it. Scout rifles echo across these huge plains when you shoot them. You have SMGs and shotguns reverberating when you're in a subway or a tight corridor. The entire sound design is just massively improved. And there are throwbacks to some of the more memorable themes from Destiny 1 that I won't exactly spoil here, but when they happen, you're just going to lose it. You're going to remember them. You're going to be like, wow, I can't believe they did that. Audio is fantastic, top to bottom, every element of it. Another part of it that is very different is story. And we talked about the story before. Destiny 1 pretty much had none of it until you got to the expansions. When you played Taken King and Rise of Iron, they started doing more cutscenes. They revoiced the Ghost. They had more things happen. But the storyline in Destiny 2 from launch is not joking around. It stars the Cabal and their leader Gaul. He leads the Red Legion, which is this faction of Cabal that are just tired of human shit. They want the Traveler for themselves. They come to Earth. They destroy the tower. You're home forever. Send you on your way. Take the light away from you. And then from there you go on and you meet new characters. You go on adventures. You assemble the team and you take the fight to the Red Legion and Gaul. And along the way, you get to learn more about the world of Destiny. You get to learn more about each of the Vanguard instead of them just sitting around the table with nothing to do. They all have their own moments. They all have dialogue. You get them more fleshed out. You have all these great voice actors, but now you actually get to see them do more than just say one voice line or two as they give you an item or a legendary. Now they share a sense of history amongst each other. You get to know them as a team and things they like and don't like. And Gaul as a villain is much more fleshed out than your average video game villain. I mean, there is entire multiple cutscenes in this game dedicated to just showing you his side of the conflict, his point of view, what he thinks is right, what he thinks is wrong, how he came up, his motivations, and in a way, he almost feels like the main character of this campaign. You really learn about him. You see that he's not just some big brute. Unfortunately, you don't get much more than him in a throne room talking to the speaker throughout the game. I wish there was like a bigger scope for him and you didn't just see him basically doing an interrogation the entire time. I mean, you get to learn a lot of information that way, but he was so captivating that by the end, I wanted more of him. And I'm not going to say how it ends, but just know that he was a very cool character. I just wish they did more with him throughout the campaign because he was so interesting. The gameplay loop, good as ever. You know, you go to a social hub, you go out and patrol, you do some quests, you get some gear, you come back. It just is a lot better now at keeping you playing the game, whereas Destiny 1 was a lot of go here and waste your time, and you don't get to keep playing. You know, Destiny 1 was a game about having a good time and having fun, but it kept ripping you away from all that stuff. You couldn't just stay out there on patrol. You couldn't just not have to come back to the tower. I mean, Destiny 1 was pretty much go on patrol. You do one or two activities and the 3 or 4 public bounties that you can bring with you, and then you had to come back to the tower, then load it all in, turn all the stuff in, do it again. You were just constantly breaking up the flow of gameplay. And Destiny 2 does a fantastic job of just keeping you where you are having fun. You go to a patrol zone, you can stay in that patrol zone for hours. You don't have to come back. Engram's Dakota on pickup. You don't have to waste your time with going to orbit, the long loads. You can fast travel within the system. I mean, the game has a fucking map, which is kind of crazy because the first one had nothing like that. You had to go online to try to look at where the public events were going on, which areas had these items, and now it's all in-game. It's right there for you. It's very fun. You get great loot. Everything looks fantastic. It just is a much better job of keeping you in the parts of the game that are fun to play. Now, I'll kind of wind this up. It's been going for a while, but Destiny 2 is a really big game, and I feel like it has so much to it. And one of the things that Destiny 1 was lacking significantly was an endgame. For a game based upon loot and trying to be an MMO and an experience that's going to live for 10 years, when you hit 20 in Destiny, it was kind of over. There wasn't really much to do or much motivation, but Destiny 2 kind of sidesteps that problem completely. It has a super, super satisfying post-game. Playing through the campaign leads to very gigantic in-game events happening that change how you play, changes the places you go to, and then what you do once you get to those places. There's entire missions, activities, things to see, things to do, loot to earn, exotics to shoot, where that only pop up once you hit max level and once you finish the campaign. So this time around, they did a much better job at avoiding the problems of a very stagnant post-game and presenting a much more thorough, fun, and in-depth late-game set of activities for you and your friends to go tackle, especially with the in-game clan system. There's always something for you to do now, whether you're at the end of the game or the beginning or the middle, and you're always getting stuff for it or contributing toward the larger group. It's a fantastic experience and much needed improvement from Destiny 1. And speaking of things that are improved from Destiny 1, the lore. A lot of lore is told through the game now. You can find these things to investigate. You can hear things about the past. There's no more grimoire system where you have to go to the website. But that does lead to its own problems, because it's not that I'm against the grimoire or going to a website to get more information. and lore about a game. I just want that stuff presented in the game. Mass Effect did a great job with their codex system. You go to your ship, you go to the codex, you can get all these amazing audio entries, you can listen to stuff about the game. Even Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, with the tapes. That motorcycle is going pretty fast. With its tapes, you get a lot of information while you're playing. Destiny is such a relaxing game, especially when you're out on patrols. I wish you could queue up like an audio log of history about the zone you're in. Like, let me hear about Earth. Let me hear about the fall and the collapse while I'm running around, just having a good time, killing some monsters, finding some items. I wish there was a better in-game implementation of the lore and a way to track everything you've discovered, because right now you'll investigate something, turn the game off, come back, and your ghost will pop up with an indicator saying you need to investigate it. I wish the game tracked what you did and allowed you to access that information later on, or just hear it back, or just get more information in a better presented way. But that doesn't ruin the game by any means. It's just something I wish they would improve. And Destiny 2, with everything I just said, is much improved from the first game. It's basically the realization of all the potential Destiny 1 laid bare for you. It brings all the pieces together. Everything fits, everything is satisfying, everything is fun. Most importantly, everything is fun. You never feel like everything's working against you, whether it's the Crucible, campaign, the strikes, the adventures, the patrols. There's so much more in this game. There's so much more character in the world. There's so much more literal characters that you get to talk to. It's not just you and these three Vanguard who just tell you what to do. It feels like a place that's been alive. The music, the visuals help bring that feeling out even more. And they actually properly tease stuff for the future. The way the ending works, what it hints at. It's just a gigantic sense of fun and reward for everything you do in Destiny 2. And all I want to do is stop this review, go back in, and play with my friends. And I think that's the most important thing to think about when you think of Destiny 2. It's just fun, and the game doesn't stop you from having it like it used to. So, I would say to all potential Guardians, you cannot miss this game. Destiny 2 is fantastic. If it wasn't for Zelda, it'd be one of the for sure Game of the Year contenders. And it's still gonna be for a lot of people. It's such a fantastic experience. Great time. 5 out of 5. Can't recommend it enough. And on top of that, the PC version is fucking great. Great PC port. It's going to be great when that drops October 24th. Who am I kidding? I'm going to be playing it on both systems. I already know that. But no matter where you play it, just make sure you're playing it with people you care about and your friends and have a good time. I'll have my clan posted down below. That was my review. 5 out of 5, Destiny 2. One of the best games of the year, and Bungie's return to form. Have a good one, everybody.